second briefing for our meeting of February 3rd, 2023. Our chairman, Commissioner Martin, will be here momentarily, so I will turn the briefing over to our county manager, Dudley Watts.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So what we have today is we'll finalize the agenda for the Thursday, February 2nd meeting, and so we'll dive deep into the regular business items, but also here on the planning items as well. We do have two discussion items. We've got a winter work session plan coming up in February, and so we've been working on that, what that agenda looks like, and we've sort of got a strategy around that, but I want to hear from you if you have anything that you specifically want us to spend energy on there. And then the other one is we've done some work on the 2023 state legislative agenda. Really, there's a little federal piece to that too, but we've got some presentations to make today that's sort of a little bit more in depth into what the legislative ask is and sort of the planning environment that we're working around right now. So anyway, I'll go ahead and dive into the items for the February 2nd agenda. First two items are planning items. Chris Murphy is going to come up and talk about two of those items. Turn it over to Chris.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is the first case is case F-1624, which is a request of the EM Light Heirs to rezone a 15.5 acre property on the east side of Old Hollow Road across from Old 66 Circle from RS20 to RM8S. Here is the subject property shown on the Legacy Growth Management Area Plan. It's located within the GMA4 Future Growth Area and on the edge of the Activity Center at 66 and Reedsville Road, 158. Here's the subject property highlighted in yellow, again located on the northeast side of Highway 66 there, close to the 66 and 158 intersection, and directly to the west is HBS zoned property for a mix of multifamily residential and commercial uses, and then surrounding it to the north, east, and to the south is residential property zoned RS20. Here's the subject property outlined in yellow. You see that it's currently mostly wooded. You do see the developed nature of the properties to the west, and then the relatively undeveloped properties zoned RS20 to the north, east, and south. Some of that is used for agricultural uses. Some of it is low density, large lot residential, and some of it's vacant wooded. Here's the subject property shown on the Walkertown Area Plan Update, which was adopted by the Commissioners back in 2014. The subject property is recommended for single-family residential. However, it is adjacent, again, to the Activity Center, the more intense uses there. And so staff does believe as a transitional use that with sewer being available here through a private pump station back over the ridge into the city-county public utilities sewer system, that this is an appropriate location to have a little additional density and serve as a transition and almost like a break point between intense development and lower density single-family residential. This is looking northwest along Old Hollow Road, which is also Highway 66. The subject property is on the right. You see the zoning sign there. Whenever I get to the image of the site plan, the driveway is an approximate. This is approximately in the location where the photo was taken from. And at the last briefing, Commissioner Linville asked for what that distance was, and it's right at 2,000 linear feet, which is 0.4 acres. So you were almost spot on with your half acre, just a little bit short of that.
I've been through there a few times.
This is looking north along the existing access easement that would go to serve those developed residential properties further to the east. You see the three-story walk-up style apartment buildings that are part of that HB zoned property that was shown on the aerials. This is looking south on Old Hollow Road, again, Highway 66. The subject property is on the left. And you see kind of the wooded and undeveloped nature of that section of Old Hollow slash 66 as you head southeast. This is the site plan proposed for F-1624. You see it as a single access point onto Highway 66. Again, that proposed intersection is about 2,000 linear feet away from the intersection of 158 and 66. It is 100 units. It is, again, a single access point. NCDOT's requirements for the driveway permit will include left and right turn lanes, which will assist with through traffic being able to pass on Highway 66 without stacking up, not accounting for the existing stacking perhaps from the 158 light, but as far as this property having an impact upon it, it will accommodate through traffic with those turn lanes. You do notice in the image there is, and I did mention it earlier, the private lift station that will serve this property, and then that the effluent will be pumped into the city-county public utility system across the ridge, which is Highway 66. This is just a rendering of what the proposed townhomes would look like. In summary, the proposal provides an ideal land use transition between the US 158 and North Carolina 66 Activity Center and the nearby single-family uses. The request will provide additional housing close to goods and services in a walkable area. The developer is proposing an additional buffer yard along Old Hollow Road and the private access easement to lessen the visual impact of the development on passing traffic. This was heard by the Planning Board at their December 8th, 2022 public hearing. There were 2 speakers in opposition. The opposition cited concerns with traffic, inconsistency with the plan, and what they felt was a lack of walkability. Following discussion, the Planning Board did vote 7-1 to recommend approval of the request, and the site plan does meet UDO requirements. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions?
Yes.
Chris?
Go ahead.
And go ahead, Madam Chair.
Chris, the concern about the walkability, do you share that concern?
No, I believe part of that concern was because, and I'll go back to this image. If you look at this image, you have a break in the development between the proposed townhomes and the the developed area that's shown on this aerial photo. Since this aerial photo was taken in 2018, the Mavis Tire and Auto Center there, hopefully you can see my mouse, has been built here. There is a final development plan that's in the process of going to Walkertown on this piece of property, which is for a car wash. And so with those, there is sidewalk across that frontage. There's sidewalk across the frontage of this proposal. So you would be able to walk from this townhome development along 66 and be able to walk to points within the development on the same side of the road. Now, I'm not as crazy to suggest that it's easy to cross Highway 66, but again, if you get to an intersection, there are those opportunities to cross at a signalized intersection. I don't know that I would try it, but again, there is a walkability. There are sidewalks in the area that would afford you being able to walk from these townhomes to goods and services located further to the northwest.
Thank you.
Last week I asked you about, and I don't know, I haven't been through this, about turn lane, and you indicated that the state would look at it, and I don't recall whether you said that they would or not. I can't see them not.
Yeah.
But on a roadway like this, because they wouldn't allow traffic. Well, I just don't think it would do that. But this being a special use, does that have to be stated? Does it need to be stated in here that turn lane would occur?
I'm not sure exactly what page it is in your book, but there is a condition of approval related to this in the special use district permit that's in your book. And it's under prior to issuance of any permits. It says the developer shall obtain a driveway permit from the NCDOT. Additional improvements may be required prior to issuance of the driveway permits. Additional improvements include left and right turn lanes on Old Hollow Road at the development entrance. Provide future proposed right-of-way dedication to NCDOT. So there is a specific condition of approval related to left and right turn lanes. If NCDOT, again, we have that in there based on what they've asked for. Now, I suppose that they could go through the process, and whenever it comes time for them to actually issue the permit, they could say, well, we don't want you to install these. Then at that point, it's the NCDOT discretion. But again, we've put them on notice that NCDOT has said that these turn lanes are required.
Okay, now, talk about traffic just a little bit, and it's not totally specific to this, but in many places in this whole area of development, it appears that in this case, all you would have is still just enough room for 2 lanes of traffic. Well, from a stoplight there back to this point, if there is ever need, well, there's going to be a need, it's not a question if it's going to be, then it don't appear to me that, in going through there often, that to be able, where that the businesses that's already built, to widen that to 4 lane, it don't appear to me that it's enough right of way to do that without getting into their parking lots. Over on the 158 side, there's more right of way over there. Right of way was purchased a long time ago, and a good ways east on 158, and I think really all the way back to the city limits. So they've got about enough right of way to do what they are in early process of doing now, of widening 158. But these places like this, and other places, I want to stress, not just this, to continue approving zonings without, and I'm not sure whether the state should pay for them or probably so, but to ensure that there is right-of-way in places like this for road widening to build and let building occur as close as it can be to roadways where you couldn't have extra lanes if needed. And they're actually, in my opinion, what's already built there, it needed, I'm just surprised that the state didn't require that. Now, when they get the Beltline done, I think that is going to take, in this area, or on all of 66, some amount of traffic off. How much, I don't know, but I think it'll take some. But that 66 and 158, there's just going to be more traffic, and there's no way to get out of it other than multi-lanes. That'll help some. There's no place to put bridges there. If we could, you tore everything down, but it's just going to be an at-grade crossing, seems like to me, forever, ever and ever. But to keep on the planning, or some of us needs to decide what we're going to do about these places, and maybe the DOT too, talk with them. They know where all these places are, but to continue changing in zoning and allowing any kind of buildup without the insurance of if there's 2 lanes, that at least 4 lanes could be put in place, because if we continue down this path, we're just adding more to the problem. Now, I don't need to tell you, you could tell me all that stuff, but I just want you to know that I know that.
And I appreciate that. And again, it's one of those things, it's a complex, multi-layered, multi-department and, issue, and it's a political issue. Obviously you have rights that go with properties. I mean, again, I know there's RS20 at 15 acres, they probably could get, 40 homes here. So, 40 single-family homes and never even have to go through any type of process besides getting their permits. They've asked for something special, which then brings in a more detailed staff analysis, and then it's up to the elected officials to make the decision regarding whether or not that's good from a public policy standpoint. Obviously, when you're looking at things such as this, planning has kind of the land use aspect and how land use ties into transportation and how they're so intermingled. Of course, we rely on Winston-Salem DOT as our reviewing agency for the MPO as a whole, which all Forsyth County is in the same MPO. So our Winston-Salem DOT staff looks at development in relation to what the long-range transportation plan says, what the transportation improvement program says, which are funded or projects that are in the pipeline to be funded. Then you have NCDOT, who's looking at it from the big picture, the same kind of things, the long-range transportation plan and the transportation improvement plan as far as funding goes, but then they're also looking at it at the micro level to issue permits that come across their desk. So when you take all of that into account, that's why we have an interdepartmental review where we do get those comments and those kind of things. But you're right, at some point there is a tipping point that makes approvals of rezoning requests problematic for the community. And that's one of those things where we can give you our best advice, but at the end of the day, if the elected body feels that there's an issue with the request, it's certainly within your right to say, we feel like until something is done with the traffic, that we shouldn't approve any more intensifications of zoning in this area.
Other questions?
Well, I guess the best I can do then is when we have the official meeting on this, I'll review this with you again, just so it'll be in the minutes and somebody will think, well, what was them people thinking them years back? Well, they can look back and say, well, somebody thought about it, but wasn't much interest in it. But we do need to, do something, and I don't know what the answer is. You're the planning man, and you be working on some ideas, because I know you got them.
Mr. Best.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I understand it, there was a Walkertown representative at the hearing before the planning board, and they specifically cited the concern regarding adding to traffic congestion and safety issues at an already stressed section of road, including that signal. Am I recalling that correctly?
That's correct.
And so at the public hearing, they would have an opportunity to send a representative again and express that the town is concerned about this.
Correct.
I have one question in regards to Commissioner Linville's discussion. Is the current right-of-way sufficient to actually have a turn lane permanently all the way to 158 and back, as you know, as it assuming further development? I could see a 3-lane solution with a turn lane in the middle. If there's sufficient right-of-way for that, that provides a breather for a period of time.
And I'm trying to find the specific answer to your question because it's within the staff report somewhere. It is on, is it in the staff report or is it in the comments that we received from NCDOT? There is a specific reference to, it's two things. As I read earlier in the conditions of approval, there is a stipulation that says provide future proposed right-of-way dedication to NCDOT across their frontage. So there is that provision. To answer the larger question, whether or not the right-of-way that currently exists is wide enough to do what you're asking, I'm not 100% sure. I can check with our Winston-Salem DOT or NCDOT staff and ask the question. I will say that it says this section of NC 66 has been submitted as an STIP project for the proposed future widening. Contact is Fred Haith with the division planning, who's the division planning engineer. So what I'll do is I'll get in touch with Frederick, who used to be a Winston-Salem DOT employee who now works for NCDOT, and see what stage that's in, and I'll have that whenever we have the public hearing next
And
week.
so I can talk about both what's likely to happen on 158 at that intersection, as well as on 66 on Old Hollow Road, both sides. You could clearly do, in fact, I think it may be 3-lane already on the other side. And I'm curious about that. That would be, anyway, if you could find that out for next week, that would be helpful. And perhaps make an effort to contact the Walkertown mayor and talk to him a little bit more about the Walkertown councils. Do they have a position, or is it a single member speaking, or what? And as Commissioner Bessie said, they're certainly welcome to be at the hearing too.
At the planning board, it was the town manager, but
Okay, good, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
I have the next item, so I'll transition right into that. If I can find my mouse. The second petition is F-1625. The petitioner is the West Salem Forsyth County Board of Education to rezone a 45.19 acre site on the east side of Fraternity Church Road and the Hope Church Road intersection. The request, again, is to rezone from general use RS9 to IP institutional public. This is the subject property shown on the Legacy Countywide Growth Management Plan. It is within the Suburban Neighborhoods GMA 3 Growth Management Area. There on the southeast side of Stratford Road. This is the subject property highlighted in yellow. Again, you see the long, narrow piece of property that goes out to the roundabout at Hope Church Road and Fraternity Church Road. And then you see that there is both a middle school and an elementary school on the 45-acre subject property. This is the property outlined in yellow on the countywide aerial photography. Again, you see the two schools. You kind of see the existing land use pattern, and you see how the property goes out to that traffic circle again. This is looking east into the site from the traffic circle at Fraternity Church Road and Hope Church Road. This is the subject property shown on the Southwest Suburban Area Plan update, which was approved in 2015. And it recognizes the existing institutional nature of the subject property being developed for schools, and therefore the recommended land use for the property is institutional. So the requested IP zoning is appropriate. In summary, again, the request is consistent with the recommendations of the Southwest Suburban Area Plan Update and Legacy 2030. There are no anticipated traffic impacts associated with this request. The proposed district is compatible with the existing institutional land use and the surrounding land use pattern. This was heard by the Planning Board at their December 8th, 2022 public hearing. There were no speakers in opposition, and the Planning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of the request. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Chris?
Really just a
Commissioner
comment. I was involved in the Southwest Suburban Area Plan hearings and public comment process, and to the best of my recollection, there was absolutely no controversy about this recommendation in the plan. So I would be surprised if anyone opposed it.
I would too.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Very good.
All right, Mr. County Manager.
Yep. Agenda item 3 is a special resolution. It's a resolution adopting the revised rules of procedure for Forsyth County Board of Commissioners meeting. I know the chairman and attorney have been working on this. Essentially, it was an effort to put into the policy the fairly minor changes just to make this meeting match up with practice. And so I don't know if Fred Johnson's sitting in for Gordon, but there is a marked up copy, so you can see a lot of the marks, what was changed. A lot of it was really moving sections around and some things like that. But Fred, you got anything you want to add to that?
No, sir, I don't have anything. Right, it's codification of a sort of existing practice.
All right.
Any questions about it?
Okay. Very good. All right, item 4, minutes. Those will be forthcoming.
They were sent out today.
Sent out. They are there, so quick work. Agenda item 5 is an amendment to the 2016 Schools Capital Projects Ordinance. Adam Fernbach from our finance office is here to talk about it. If there are questions about the projects, Darrell Walker's in the back, and he can certainly address that. So, Adam.
Good afternoon, Dr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, and Commissioners. This item amends the 2016 Schools Capital Project Ordinance to provide additional funding to the East Forsyth High School renovation and New Ashley Elementary projects. This funding comes from the Pre-K Addition project and 3 completed projects, Mount Tabor Stadium, Glen High Stadium, and Parkland Safety and Traffic. Funds for New Ashley cover increased market value of land to be acquired, increased attorney fees, and past due taxes on the subject properties. And funds for East Forsyth would cover schematic and design work in advance of the renovation of the school building there. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer, and as mentioned, Darrell and Nick are here as well.
Questions?
Thank you.
Adam, thank you. We have one item as a grants matter. Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of a grant from the National Environmental Health Association for the Department of Public Health to support the Environmental Health Division fooding and lodging. You've got an associated budget ordinance amendment. Adam Pendleberry with Public Health will review.
Good afternoon. This item is to accept and appropriate a grant from the National Environmental Health Association for $7,500. This grant will be used for staff training in environmental health. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Agenda item 7, we've got a couple of contract matters. Item 7 is the first of those. It's a resolution ratifying and authorizing the execution of the interlocal agreement between Forsyth County and the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education for implementation of the Be Healthy School Kids program. Sharita Sutton with Public Health will review. Hey, Sharita.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The interlocal agreement is a non-revenue agreement that will allow the Forsyth County Department of Public Health to implement the Be Healthy nutrition program in the elementary schools in the Winston-Salem Forsyth County schools. Any questions for me?
Any questions?
I do have a question. The Be Healthy program, is this someone new or is this an existing contract that we already have with them? Are they local here in Winston-Salem?
So Be Healthy is a program, it's an existing program at the Health Department that's been there for some
Health
years.
Department, okay.
And so they have been working with the schools when it's do a new agreement.
Okay, fair
An
enough. Thank
interlocal
you. I
agreement.
appreciate
You're
that.
welcome.
Mr. Bessie?
Yes, thank you. The document appears to reference physical fitness. You referenced nutrition. Was
Yes.
that?
Yes, so Be Healthy is a nutrition and physical fitness program, the existing program.
Nutrition and physical, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharita. Agenda item 8 is a resolution approving a contract to provide Wi-Fi services to the Tanglewood Park Campground. Gary Kuntz will review this. He has been working on some options, and we know that we have heard from folks, and they want improved Wi-Fi at the campground and are willing to pay for it.
And I'm willing to pay for it. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I will say this is not just an effort that I've been working on, my staff. I've got Jason Ring, my technology manager, and also Chris Weevil with Parks and Rec. It's one of these projects that we've been looking for a solution for a very long time. At your December 1st meeting, you guys had reserved funds through the PAYGO process to do something there for us. And so my staff at that point, well, actually before that, but we looked at our projected way of doing, providing that services, buying equipment, installing it, maintaining it. And we actually took the approach of what are all the ways we can look at to improve this situation. So rather than just us going out spending the money and buying stuff and business as usual, we took the option to say, what else could we do? So we essentially took a three-pronged approach. We did, in fact, do the traditional way of let's go look at what it's going to cost us to buy the equipment, to install it, to maintain it, and provide that service as an internal service at the county. We also reached out to business partners and said, what would you implement and install this, and what's your proposal for doing this? Again, they would essentially put it in for us, then hand it over to the county for operational support. And then the third option, or third approach, that was reaching out to what I call service providers and saying, look, what would you do it just as a service for us? And would you do that? In the past, as we've looked at that option, we really haven't had any takers on that, as Tanglewood is a large park. The campground is a little more accessible. It's closer to the highway there, so it's a little bit closer to services. But we did this time have a partner, which is Spectrum, that actually gave us a proposal for providing it as a service. So it essentially for us, it's a contract with them to provide that service at, I believe, at a higher level of service than we can provide it internally for the money. It requires no upfront costs from us, and it's just an operational expense with Tanglewood Park for that campground service. And again, Chris can speak to that if you'd like. So that's the approach we took on that. In order to try to get a cost comparison, we did have to crunch the numbers down to say what's a reasonable estimation of cost. So we essentially balanced everything to a 5-year equivalent cost. In 5 years, what are we going to pay for each type of solution, for an in-house, business partner, or as a service? And the as a service actually came in the most economical. And so that's what we're asking you guys to approve today, is a contract, well, not approved today, but at your next meeting, is a contract with Spectrum to provide Wi-Fi services at Tanglewood, again, as a service. It's a 75-month contract. Again, it's an operational expense, no upfront cost for us, and it will also allow you guys to reallocate or re-reserve the money that you guys set aside in PAYGO for other initiatives.
The only thing I would add is, obviously, we'll pass that cost off to the users of the campground. The taxpayers will not
I would also comment on Spectrum's attitude. They're not just a company that's trying to make money off of government with cable. This is a service to the Tanglewood Park. Hats off to them.
They've been a good partner of ours. I will say, just for transparency, the full 75-month cost for this contract is $102,225, which is $1,363 per month, which is $29 a campsite a month. That's what it boils down to. So, again, from how things are charged or whatever, I'll leave that to Chris to answer. My job is to try to get a solution in front of you that's going to work.
It's always good to hear that kind of comment.
So did you just say roughly that equates to $21 a campsite?
It's $29 a campsite per month.
Right.
And there's 47 campsites, and it's $1,363 a month total, and 100 and whatever I just said for the contract, the life of the contract, $102,225 over a 75-month contract.
Chris, do you want to talk about what you expect what the current rates per night there are, and what you expect them to move up as we go into really next year's budget, probably?
Good afternoon. As Dudley mentioned, we have looked at our numbers and our current per night fee at the campground. Right now, we're making a very good profit at the campground, so this will really not hurt our bottom line, but we will be able to increase the fee. I don't have the numbers with me today, and I can get those, but we can increase our nightly fee by $1 and, cover this complete, cover everything that, Gary's just talked about, the $29 additional for the new Spectrum service. We can increase our nightly fee by $1 per site, and we'll break even.
And we do get a fair number of complaints. Everybody loves our campground, and that is really the only area of complaint that we get, so it's a value add.
Thank you for that work. It's good. Anybody else questions?
No, I don't have any questions, but I do have comments. So I appreciate you doing this work. Me and my family have attended the festival every year. So having that, the internet services not working for young people can be a little stressful in the car. So thank you so very much for that.
Well, I will clarify, this is for the campground only.
Oh, campground only.
So this covers the campground sites. We are looking at a larger park project.
I was going to ask you about that. Did it extend all the way
I think you
out
asked
there?
me previously when we was talking about it, when I had the complaints, and we are looking at a solution for that. Our challenge for that is the park is so vast.
Right.
It's a lot to cover. So right now, our number one complaint was the campground.
Sure.
So that's what we.
Will you still continue to look into that?
Absolutely,
though? Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I had though.
Gary, you need to get in touch with that guy from Spectrum doing that advertising on television. He might give you a discount or a free line.
I don't watch a lot of commercials, so I don't really know who you're talking about, but okay.
All right. Item 9 is also Gary's. This is a resolution approving a contract with Sierra Cedar LLC to provide optimization and consultative services for the Oracle Cloud solution. You got an associated budget ordinance amendment as we work through this complicated project. Turn it over to Gary.
Thank you very much. This is a services contract with Sierra Cedar to provide a lot of services for us, but it's all around what we call our FC Connect project, or I think previously was introduced as an ERP project. It combines, consolidates our finance piece, our payroll piece, our HR piece, our budgeting piece into a unified system. I know this has been on the calendar for a while. We've been working as county staff, if not any one department, on this project for quite a while. Finance went live, October 1st, I think it was, thereabouts. So they're live on the system now. HR and budgeting is onboarding shortly. Because HR and budgeting are still in process, and Sierra Cedar is our implementer on that, we still need to support the finance side of things because they're in a post-go-live support stage now. So this contract is with Sierra Cedar, which is currently, like I said, continuing the implementation for the rest of the system. But this is why we went with Sierra Cedar for this contract. It's $90,000. And at this point, we don't really know exactly, and Chantel can jump in on this, we don't really know exactly the support we're going to need, but we know we don't want to do this by ourselves.
Thank you, Gary. This particular contract is to do quarterly updates. We do need a vendor to do our quarterly updates, and they require a contract for 4 consecutive ones. Hopefully after this 4th, our own internal team will know how to do that. We're trying to work with Oracle directly on that. And then this is also to buy some consultant hours in the event that we need it. So it's a not to exceed contract. If we don't need to utilize the consulting hours outside of the quarterly updates, then we would not be providing them with those funds. So it is just on a usage basis. As we are all learning this new system, this is to make sure that there's good knowledge transfer for our own internal team to support the system.
Thank you for that. And to supplement that, we are in the process of filling 3 positions for this kind of support, so we won't have to execute these contracts in the future.
Existing positions, Commissioner Martin.
They are existing positions, yes.
I was thinking about anticipation when we started this process of staffing, and I remember we were going to save staff from this, but I guess I thought wrong. I guess we're going to redeploy them.
This is a large project, and I think when it's all said and done, that opportunity may present itself. At this point, it's taken a lot of resources to get it implemented and then to support it. Again, we're realigning some positions into different roles of support is what we're looking at with these 3 positions.
That part is good, so.
Well, and the complexity of keeping 2 systems alive, which is what you have to do, and that's where we are right now, is we've got the old system and
3 systems, and HR, we still got finance
Right.
up from a look-back standpoint, and then payroll and budgeting, yes.
All righty. Any questions? Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
All right. Item 10 is a resolution authorizing the execution of an agreement with Dreambuilt Construction Incorporated for pickleball court construction at Joni Moser Memorial Park. Chris Weevil.
Pardon me while I stay here.
There you go.
All right. I got there. Sorry, showing my age. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Board. Appreciate the opportunity to present this item to you today. We've prepared a brief presentation for you outlining the Joni Moser Pickleball project, recommending Dreambuilt Construction Incorporated to construct the project. I also got a little history for you on Joni Moser Memorial Park. Joni Moser was opened in, lost my slide here, so I'll have to go on memory. It was through a cooperative effort between the community of Louisville and several local community organizations and Forsyth County. A new park in Louisville opened to the public in 1979. The park was named Joni Moser Memorial Park in memory of Joni Lake Moser, a local 12-year-old child who was killed by a drunk driver in 1972. So that's how the park got its name, so that's a little bit of history for you there. Moving on October 14th, 2021, staff briefed the board on pickleball in Forsyth County. With public input and staff input, we recommended a 9-court pickleball configuration at Joni Moser Park in Louisville. On January 6, 2022, the board approved $200,000 in the 2021 PAYGO CPO for pickleball courts. A pickleball package was sent for bidding to purchasing in early May of 2022. Purchasing advertised the project 3 times. I'm reading right along here. I apologize. Pickleball project package was sent for bidding to purchase in early May 2022. We purchased or advertised the project 3 times, twice in the summer of 2022 and once in the fall. The first advertisement in the summer of 2022 resulted in 0 bids. The second advertisement resulted in a single bid. So we waited until the fall of 2022 and we advertised again. At that point in time, we received 5 responsive bids. The lowest responsible and responsive bidder was Dreambuilt Construction Incorporated. They had a total base bid of $303,500. We had a bid alternate 1A for shade canopies. These shade canopies mount on the fences above the benches that will be on the courts. But that alternate 1A was also accepted at a cost of $8,200. Performance and payment bonds in the amounts of $5,863 were also required as the project exceeded $300,000. Project cost for the project, the total base bid was $303,500, $8,200 for alternate 1A, the shade canopies, $5,863 for the performance and payment bonds, for a total construction cost of $317,563. We're asking for a 5% contingency. That would be $15,585 for a total project budget of $333,148. An amendment to the 2021 PAYGO CPO transferring $141,106 from the inflation contingency to the pickleball project was approved at the board meeting on January 5th, 2023. Construction is anticipated to begin in the second quarter of 2023 and is anticipated to take between 4 and 6 months, depending on the weather. Things like those. So I do have a couple of overheads here. If you're familiar with Joni Moser's, you see Louisville Clemens Road here to the south. You would enter, take a right. The softball field would be on your left. You would proceed back to the east. You can see the tennis court facility here on the eastern side of the park, kind of the southeastern side of the park. The northwestern side of the park, we've got a volleyball shelter, or volleyball complex, and our picnic shelter. So that just kind of shows you the L-shaped layout of Joni Moser Park. These two pictures are the one with the grass that you can see is a view from the northwest looking to the southeast. You can see the tennis courts and the half-court basketball court to your left. The other shot, the bigger shot, is looking to the northeast. Those are our current tennis courts, and you can see the half-court basketball in the very back. The final layout will look, as you see there on the left, there'll be 9 courts, fences in between all, and then kind of the right-hand aerial kind of shows you the layout as it is now with the 2 tennis courts, the half-court basketball. I'll ask for any questions.
Well, I just, one comment, certainly glad that we had 5 bidders who was good after absolutely no interest to speak of. So that was at least great to see. I am a little curious on the performance bond. Is that not normally included and paid for by the bidder?
It is normally paid for and included. We did not include this because we anticipated the cost to be.
So it was not a part of the specs?
No, sir, it was not a part of the specs. We anticipated it to be less than 300.
Any questions?
Chair Martin, I do have questions. Thank you, Mr. Weaver, for your presentation. I was just wondering, are any of the vendors MWBE certified?
Yes, ma'am. Dreambuilt is a MWBE certified company. It's a female-owned, woman-owned company.
Okay. Do we have a MWBE goal at the county, Dudley?
We do, since we partner with the city of Winston-Salem,
Okay.
they
It's the
administer it for us, but yeah, it's that 10% goal.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a comment. I haven't, for whatever reason, I think God meant for pickleballs to be played with in Forsyth County. And I've been waiting for a pickle company somewhere in North Carolina to marry up with Forsyth County. It's a natural for advertising. I mean, you just put your name on one of those things and they'll say, well, such and such pickle company is helping to sponsor this. And I'm thinking, well, that's a great idea. It would be good for the company, good for us, and especially good for, in fact, I was thinking they could even buy pickleballs and throw those in. I don't know what kind of financial contribution that would be, but ever since we started these conversations, I thought a pickle company really ought to be jumping on this, but they haven't so far. I hope they do.
We'll let the marketing minds work on that one for you, sir. One comment I will make, if we get this done within this summer period, we should have the only dedicated pickleball courts in Forsyth County. We're kind of in a race with the city right now to, I think we're all trying to build pickleball courts at the same time, but if we get done first, we'll have the first set of dedicated courts.
Good.
Pressure's on. Yep. All right.
Their mascot could be a pet pickle.
All right, we have 3 tax administration items. John Burgess is president. If you have any questions, you've got a resolution approving refunds in the amount of $28,954.39. Assessor refunds, you've got $381 from the Board of Equalization and Review, and then the tax, North Carolina vehicle tax system, $12,528.23. Last item on the, next last item on the agenda are appointments. I know the chairman's been working with you to try to get those appointments directed, and Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions, anything on that?
No, well, they're all done. Ashley has them, and I think they're in the attachment.
Very good. All right. And then the last item, the December 22 contribution-based benefit cap report, just for your review. So that is it. Fairly straightforward February 2nd agenda. Any questions before I move on to the discussion items? And I do want to mention, because Kyle Haney had reminded me, we do have a closed session, so don't want to.
You know, I just had another thought.
Uh-oh.
If we got the pickle company involved, you could name the pickle, call it Paul Pickle or whatever, Phil Pickle. There are all kinds of possibilities. This is Sweet Howie Pickle. Everybody likes him. Then you got Dill Pickle that nobody really has any feelings for one way or the other. Oh, me.
I'll hurry up and get on into this if you want me to. So, all right, so, 2 items, winter work session planning, I'll come back to that. But as you know, there are a lot of discussions about the 2023 state legislative agenda. I think the General Assembly actually convened yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, so they are off and running. I think it's an important year. It reminds me really of a couple of years ago where we knew the state's financial condition was really, really strong. That is the case now, is my understanding. I know Chairman Martin has had more conversations than I have, but the state coffers look pretty good right now. If you add sort of the infrastructure bill on the federal level that's sort of converging with that, it's an exciting, kind of interesting time. And as we've been doing planning around projects, we do have a lot of projects that fit kind of well with a state, with state interest, because a lot of them really do have regional characteristics. They'll certainly serve our community well, but and then there's also some projects that have been around a while that maybe are worth talking about. So what I'm going to do is on the first 4, we're going to do just real quick presentations, and you can kind of see what we've got there. And then we'll also talk about some other initiatives, and then kind of step through this. So if I can turn it over to, I think Mark Davidson's going to be up first. He's going to be talking about the capital projects at Smith Reynolds Airport that we want to present to the legislative delegation. So turn it over to Mark. He's going to get a little bit of help on the audio visual.
He's getting that ready. Mark Davidson, Airport Director. When I was a kid, Sears catalog would come out the wish book for Christmas. And so this is my wish list, where I'd mark down for my parents if I wanted a big wheel or a pickleball paddle. So I know we're not going to get all those kind of things. I got my wish list here, but it'd be great for the airport. So, but before I would give the list to my parents, I would say how great I was. I was a good kid, and so I got 2 quick slides to just show how good we are doing out at Smith Reynolds Airport. This slide's actually from Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. We're the 5th best state in the country for aerospace. We got high-paying jobs out the airport at our place as well as PTI. A lot of jobs creations in the last 4 years. You can see the numbers there, 15,000 people in aerospace, and you got a lot of the companies located at Smith Reynolds Airport. If you didn't see this, Ashley put out a press release lately. Every 2 years, the state of North Carolina, the NCDOT, puts out a economic impact study, and this is a way we can compare. And we have done well once again. I want these numbers to be higher, but there's 72 public use airports, 10 of them are commercial service, 62 are general aviation, and we're the highest general aviation airport in regards to total economic impact. We actually beat 4 other commercial service airports such as Fayetteville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Greenville. So we're actually really 7th in the state. So we're doing well, and we need to do better if we can get some of these projects listed here, get them funded. And so I like to take the legislators, hopefully that you all will consider some of these projects. We are out of space at the airport, believe it or not. We have some acres on the other side of the airport, but I'll get into that in a second. We do have some county-owned land on the south ramp adjacent to where Foresight Tech built the new Maisie S. Woodruff Aviation Technology Lab. And I think it's our only space. We're working with David Mounts and Piedmont Flight Training, but there's other private entities that are interested in that south ramp to build hangars and T-hangars and things like that. So if we could expand it, rehabilitate it, build onto that, I have an estimated cost of $4 million. Another project to consider is when you look at the airport, one of our best attributes is that we're so close to downtown, but we're also close to neighborhoods. And we got to consider that in every decision we make. We want to make sure we're compatible. And so this project here is, before we even move forward on some projects that are located on the far side of the airport, we need to consider noise and security barriers. We want to minimize the impact, have compatible land use. And so this is sort of like, I haven't seen this at the airport yet, but some noise barriers, sort of like you see on the side of the highway, we could possibly consider, as well as some natural barriers. I have a cost of $1.5 million for that. And when I did talk about that side of the airport, we're talking about really Site 4, Site 5, Site 6. As you may recall from a previous meeting, we have an agreement. We're going to do some conceptual drawings to get the what they call FONSI, finding of no significant impact for that Site 4. It's about 64 acres, and it's on the far side of the airport. And if we do get the approval, you know, there's a lot of issues, zoning, it's residential all the way up to the runway. But if we do get past some of those hurdles, we should look at access road, infrastructure, and so I have that sort of in my wish list here. And then another project, this is right when you're at Akron Drive and North Liberty Street. There's a nice parcel on the corner. You know, we could consider a business incubator space, flex office space. It's just a really good location we should consider. We also have to consider our imaginary surfaces off the runway. We can't build something too high, but I have $2.5 million for that. And then if you've been by the airport lately, you've seen the 2 hangars being developed or starting to be changing the landscape a lot. I just want to keep everybody's mind, there's 2 20,000 square foot hangars. We actually tore down an old 1930s hangar. It was 10,000 square feet. And we just got a our engineering report told us about the Quonset hut. We can't rehabilitate it. So we had to do a notice to vacate to our tenant. And that's 24,000 square feet. So when you take the 10,000 and the 24,000 square foot hangars that we're demolishing, we're only really netting 6,000 square feet of new hangar space. So it's time to consider looking at a community hangar where the Quonset hut is. So I've got that in there at $4.5 million. And then the very last one, if you remember, the last time we went after, got funds from the legislators was the State Capital Infrastructure Fund, and one of the projects listed in there was the MRO hangar. This is another one. This is one of our markets. If you don't know, very familiar with the airport, we market towards corporate aviation, recreation, flight training, and maintenance, repair, and overhaul. We have United, American Airlines come in, JetBlue, a lot of employees over at North State. This would allow us to build some more MRO hangars to create more job creation. And give you an idea, a project like this is about 250 new employees, high-paying jobs to work on aircraft. So we cannot forget that. So, and the state is already building a new ramp at that location for us, about $14 million. So we just need to put hangars adjacent to it. So that's my wish list. Comes up to $39 million. You know, just chump change for the state. I'm kidding. But hopefully we can get on boards with some of these projects, ask for the big ask, because we won big last time. I'm so happy with that. We've never got funding like that as we did with the capital infrastructure, the SCIF funds. And we have the $23 million. We're spending it on our corporate hangars, our terminal building, a new MRO hangar. So we just want to keep going and make sure we stay atop of all the airports. Anybody have any questions? Or?
Mr. Bessie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark, the only one of these projects that strikes me as potentially controversial is the vertical takeoff and landing field that would be new development on the neighborhood side of the current runways. When is the public meeting that's being held by Councilmember Burke scheduled?
Yeah, we don't have any public meetings yet. The idea is that AvCon and STEML would come up with some conceptual plans, and then we'd work with Councilmember Burke for a public meeting.
I guess my question would be, are we jumping the gun and asking the legislature for $12 million for a project that's still at that extremely early stage?
Yeah, I don't know about jumping the gun, but I think the process is going to take a while, and that could come or not come. I mean, that's up to this board. Do you want to strike it from the wish list? That's fine. We just need to find funding when it does come time.
And what I would say is, last time, they it was essentially a block of funding, and so the projects, it was not project-specific. And so what you may do is, if you reduce the number, then
You may reduce your pro rata share of what's available in the state. And I think your first comment is very germane, and that is, this is a big opportunity. I have had an opportunity this week to talk to Representatives Lambeth and Hall, Kyle Hall, and they both, confirm, and just the actual we already know about the money they have in fund balance. But even their regular receipts this year are already in excess of $1.5 billion this year. This is just the regular coffers coming in. And certainly, both indicated to me that airport projects are very popular with legislators generally, and it's kind of one of those things, without it being, specific to projects, and as an overall general request, we can review those kind of things for our legislators of interest. I think it's about timing. And then if the project doesn't come to fruition, the worst case is that you return some money. It's the worst case, but
And I just want to also add that we're not talking about any land acquisition of neighborhoods. This is actual county property that we're talking about building on. So, and I understand the neighborhood concerns, and that's why one of the other projects is to be compatible and noise barriers and all those things.
Sure. But of course, we understand that this is entirely contingent on approval of a rezoning request that's within the city of Winston-Salem's purview. So, the neighborhood concerns about change in approved uses for a site, shall we say, loom large in the likely process. I have no objection to including the funding amount in an ask, but I do want us not to get in a position where the argument is made that we've bootstrapped this to a commitment at this stage.
Okay.
Dr. Martin, I have something.
please.
Thank you. So thank you for the presentation, and I look forward to, I think maybe I'm supposed to come over and kind of have a tour, and as a new commissioner, just acclimating myself better to the Smith Reynolds Airport and the opportunities that definitely it will provide for all of us in Forsyth County. But I would be remiss if I did not say I look forward to the opportunities that Smith Reynolds Airport will provide into East Winston. And so I hope that we can leverage this opportunity to make sure that we can continue to build a stronger East Winston and a stronger, obviously, Forsyth County. The other point I wanted to make is the opportunity for us to work intentional with the school district to increase aeronautical academies in some of the high schools. So, for example, my office is actually inside of a school in another county, and there is an aviation academy inside that high school, and the students actually graduate ready for some of these high-paying jobs with opportunities to, grow in the profession. So I think that this is a great opportunity for us to connect even sooner than a Forsyth Technical School student to increase capacity for workforce with the airport. So I hope we can extend that, consideration and conversation further.
Love it. I agree.
Any other questions for Mark?
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Next up is Damon's going to come up and talk about the agricultural park. Right there. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The agricultural park is one that you already approved previously, and that we recently approved the design build contract with Shellco to undertake with an $11.5 million budget. You can see the location of the site in Forsyth County, which would also could serve residents who are in the Stokes area and Yadkin area as well, kind of to the regional theme that the manager was referencing. This is a closer look at the site. Over here is Doral Drive, where the county now owns this parcel and this parcel, which create an access to the site, which was a challenge to get into previously. And the part that we're talking about developing right now, the first 90 acres, is this northern part above the railroad track that you can see here. We did a survey of residents in the area and in the community, and so you can see some of the things that people were interested in seeing at the agricultural park that they relayed to us, so including lawn and garden shows and education events, to large and small farm events, dog shows, beekeeping, and so forth. This is a conceptual plan that was created by City County Planning. So you can kind of see this long access road, shared parking, the arena, which we envision being uncovered, but if we were successful in our ask, it would be covered. Outdoor rings, which would be future unless we were successful. Then also stables, the park office for a cooperative extension, as well as a forestry service, farm offices, as well as another office there, the Rural Development Agency is also located in the cooperative extension complex. And then there's the southern parcel, which we also had future park uses, disc golf, shelters there, but that was a future use that our dollars wouldn't extend to. This is a blown up view coming off of Doral Drive into the shared parking area, the enclosed arena if we are successful, part of extension offices, perhaps a little larger if our funding did that, and then a demonstration garden area, playground here. These were some of the uses and work that would need to be done on the site. So from road access off of Doral Drive, it is formerly known as Rolling Hills, so it is the topography is difficult, so there'll be a fair amount of grading to get it usable for construction as well as to get in and out of it. Stands, future stable space, paving, the interior roadway, a restroom building not dissimilar to the one at Tanglewood that you see with the shelters there, water and sewer into the site, the cooperative extension offices and event space, exhibition garden and pavilion area that would accompany cooperative extension, 3 miles of horse trails, 1.5 miles of walking trails, a playground complex, and a park shelter. So all these things, and possibly going to the southern parcel, would be $21.8 million. The county has already put in $11.5 million for the project, which we believe will get us the cooperative extension offices, the grading and road work and utilities into the site, the outdoor uncovered arena, as well as some trails. We feel like additional funding from the state would allow us to have further amenities that, it's going to be a lot of money on the grading and the utilities work, and additional funding would allow us to do more amenities that the public could use. We took Representative Hall out to the site last week to look at it. Again, it's a beautiful site. We walked it. You can see the Sourtown Mountains and Pilot Mountain and Brushy Mountain from there. But it is, a lot of grading is going to need to be done. There's some significant drop-offs there. And so that is what I have for you. I don't know if the manager wants to add anything to that from our talk last week.
You may want to talk a little bit about the current process and design build and kind of, we are off and running with the project from that perspective.
So we had our first meeting, kickoff meeting about a week or two ago with Shelco, the design builder for the project. Kind of gave them our priority that we can accomplish with the $11.5 million that we have today. The contract's still winding its way through our contract control process, but we expect that to be signed within the next couple of weeks so that they can then begin in earnest on the site.
Quick question, is the playground that you showed there next to Doral Drive, is that a part of this first $11.5 million, the Shelco project?
Well, so that would accompany the cooperative extension area. If we can get to it, we will, but it's not a priority project with the $11.5 million.
And if it had some, there's just around the corner in Tobaccoville, there's a really nice, playground area, both walking trails, softball field, tennis courts. They play pickleball without being dedicated. But basically, I'm just curious in terms of, you're looking at, several, maybe half a mile or less between the playgrounds. I was just looking at demand. And I happen, since I have grandkids and happen to live out there, also know King has a couple of really large parks and playground areas too. I'm just trying to look at need and demand for the playground area, and that would be a great thing to have some conversation with the Tobacco folks about. Have they seen this, the extended plan here for the whole finished project?
They did. We showed it to them when we had a meeting with their village council.
And you mentioned the playground part that was on there?
Yes, and the pond and the southern part. If we ever get to that part, we did the whole comprehensive plan that city-county planning generated. Now, we'll actually have a design-build architect to provide what they actually feel like they can do on the site based on the topography. But what we shared was what city-county planning did, also taking that into account as well.
Okay, yeah. Other questions?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Noble.
Damon, looks like you've done a lot of work on there, and got a whole list of things on there that you want to do or you think needs to be done. And several months ago, we were talking about the agriculture park, and I mentioned something about some kind of farm museum. And sort of what I had in mind at the time was, well, the scope could be pretty good, wide on the kind of things that one might think that needs to be there. I can't think of all of them. I was thinking about places that I've been, some old equipment from the old days back past me a long ways. And come on up sort of to the modern day. And then I thought, well, if you want to go from the way back to the modern, all the way to that, the last thing we could include that would be up to the cutting edge would be an electric tractor. And we could, and the manager, we could let him decide what kind he thought we ought to get, what color. So if you want to think about it for a few months, all I was wanting to do was just so you could leave a spot to designate it. And so if you want to, you can just wait a few months and you and the manager can think about it and come to us one day and say, we got an idea. We ought to have a farm museum, and I'll accept that.
If you would design that for 2%, Dr. Martin would be very happy.
That's right. That's good.
I would just like to say that I am to Commissioner Linville's point, I am a big fan of museums, especially when they come to life and help our young people to understand the history of how we got here. That's one of the most precious gifts you can give to a young person, the history of how we eat and survive. And I think that they're so remiss around knowing these things because we have microwaves and grocery stores and all of this stuff that they think just kind of fell out of the sky. So I appreciate Commissioner Linville asking that request as it relates to an agricultural event center, which I won't belabor it now, but it was interesting to me because I've never heard of an agricultural event space or center. So I guess I would just need to get with you to kind of get updated around how this project was initiated and, you know, kind of where our county-city partnerships see it benefiting the good of our citizens specifically.
Absolutely. All right.
I'd go see Commissioner Linville's museum.
Absolutely.
Small town boy, I didn't have any rural experience, so, I'd be happy to learn more.
All right, thank you, Damon. So, and one thing, as you notice as we go through these, hopefully we're being very I think we're being very strategic in here because, the Smith Reynolds Airport, has sort of a transport, it has the sources of revenue. Obviously, General Assembly likes funding those, but it's got the infrastructure type things. The ag pieces, we talked to Representative Hall, has it has the parks sort of layers of funding that are out there. Obviously, it's regional in nature. And then it also has the farm interest in that. And so you've got a lot of different constituencies that you kind of pull into this. The third one we don't have a presentation on, but what I know, as we're heading into winter work session, we're going to be talking about economic development kind of moving forward. And so I just wanted to leave out there this idea that there may be some strategic water and wastewater projects or road projects that really come up during this year's legislative session. We're going to be in the long session, and I believe there will be projects that come up that we'll need to jump on pretty quickly. So, and I do think there'll be some water and wastewater infrastructure money out there. The Utility Commission, the planning folks, one of the things we're going to talk about at the winter work session is how our county's changed, and where we need to be from a utility extension perspective, infill development, and also kind of development outside of that. And so anyway, I expect that'll come up. The fourth one is a project, as we were talking through, this has been around a long time. I think back in 2004, it really kicked off around a Piedmont Greenway. And this is a little bit of an unusual project because what we're really doing here is really taking on leadership. This project does not have a lot of, the county would not be the recipient of the funds. Actually, other jurisdictions, DOT or the municipalities would really be the recipients of the dollars around the Piedmont Greenway effort. But we're really, really lucky to have Jesse Day here. Jesse's a planner with the Piedmont Triad Council of Governments, and that organization has really taken a lead along with Matthew Burzak with the city and the bike ped piece from them. But this is a 19-mile, 2-county, 3-city, 1 greenway that would connect all of that through here. And so we are, I'll let Jesse talk about the history of this. Just really exciting. And you'll notice I did add 2 counties in there. So when I described it, I had to throw 2 counties in it. So
thank you. Thank you, Chair Martin, commissioners, for the time today and for the invitation to come speak about the Piedmont Greenway. My name is Jesse Day. I'm the planning director for the Piedmont Triad Regional Council. Been there about 16 years, and we partner on regional projects, obviously, and this is a key one that's been worked on for quite a while. So I've got just a couple of images. Hopefully you can see call this an overhead projector. There's some fancy name for it, but see the information there on your screen. 20 years ago, this was put down on a master plan. So that map I just showed you of 19 miles, let me just go back up for a second here. You got 19 miles, 3 towns, 2 counties, Piedmont Greenway, worked on originally 20 years ago. And we work closely with the MPOs involved in this project. There's 2 MPOs as well, including NCDOT, Parks and Rec departments. We've been working on trying to develop this greenway. I think one of the challenges we've discovered in this is that there are the multiple jurisdictions. You've got different funding sources and priorities, whether it's paved or unpaved surfaces for certain communities that it goes through. But just as an example of some of the work that's been done, we have a couple of feasibility studies. Guilford County worked on one. The Forsyth County worked on one with the town of Kernersville back in 2015. So you got those 3 major gaps that I list there, and really, one of them hasn't even really been analyzed yet. So there's some needs there to do some further study, and I think that's where exploring this opportunity with a lot of resources at the state level is something to look at. This is the year of the trail, and I've got some year of the trail stickers to give you. So remind me before I head out of here to give those out to you. But North Carolina has declared this as the year of the trail. A couple of years ago, they funded about $25 million in trail development, but it's a one-time funding source, and it goes towards state trails. So that would be the Mount Sea Trail, the Yadkin River, Deep River Trail. So the Great Trail State Coalition is pushing to develop a $50 million fund that would not be focused particularly on state trails. And so I think taking advantage of that momentum around the trail funding and developing trails would be important. Just to give some context, trails fit into maybe this, the outdoor recreation economy. In North Carolina, it's about $11 billion, a part of the economy. And so, trails are a key piece of that, and communities are looking to that to attract residents, provide places to safely go out and recreate, and also brings visitors in. The next thing I wanted to mention too is just sort of the what are some of the needs. So I've talked with Piedmont Land Conservancy, talked with Matthew Burchek at the Winston-Salem MPO, talked with the town of Kernersville. Some of the challenges, I mentioned some of them, is that operational support. The town of Kernersville is working on a project, but they'll get pulled off of the Piedmont Greenway and be pulled into other projects. So the continuity of someone working on this project across 5 jurisdictions is a challenge. So there's a need for sort of operational support. That's something, Piedmont Triad Regional Council, Piedmont Land Conservancy, and our regional trails effort for Piedmont Legacy Trails can fill that gap. We don't have a lot of funding to back up that capacity that we have. So we're particularly also challenged to be able to focus on that as well. So that's one possible way to support implementation. Updated feasibility studies are important. Yes, there is MPO funding. You're probably thinking, well, the MPO's got access to federal funds, but that does require a match. Using the state dollars to go ahead and match some of the existing recreation and transportation dollars, I think could make this go a lot further. So one key thing of that is updating those cost estimates. For example, that section that is between downtown Kernersville and Triad Parks, about 2.7 miles. In 2015, that was about a $5 million construction cost. That's probably triple or potentially, or double or potentially triple what 2015 was, and so we need some updated costs. So that may be an area where an ask for some funding for trails could be used. And then again, I spoke a little bit about the construction pieces. This may be hard to see, but this is a map pulled from our outdoor recreation plan website. I kind of just circled some of the 4 of the areas that would probably make sense to have a more detailed construction cost estimate. If you look at let's see, on the left-hand side, that's sort of where Salem Lake existing trails end. Some analysis there would be good. There's some funded sections, but it's a small section. West of downtown Kernersville is another area to look at. And then updating the cost figures for the 2015 estimate. And then, of course, in Guilford County, not your purview, but there's some real need for making that connection to Greensboro. And that would be the beauty of this, is connecting the 2 largest cities in the Triad. It's been a priority for 20 years, and why not use the Year of the Trail as impetus to go ahead and fund that? And I'll just show you the branding for Year of the Trail and the Great Trail State Coalition. Again, I think, pushing both of those efforts, a way to push the Piedmont Greenway, but also developing continued funding for trails at the state level, I think would be a wise move. And I thank you for the opportunity to present to you. Happy to take any questions.
Got one quick one. On the the mountain to sea trail, I've seen, in fact, I won't go into the details, but I saw a map literally not long ago that it's already projected to come into the northern part of the county. In fact, I think the city is actually, the park they're developing out off of, it is off of Doral. It is off of Doral near Bethania. And it actually runs through there. Does it cross this? Is the plan?
Yeah, so when I first started planning at the regional council, we were working on an urban route and sort of a rural route for the Mountains to Sea Trail, and pushed for that and made the Piedmont Greenway part of that. Unfortunately, in the state legislative bill that would complete the trails funds, where there's $25 million, I don't believe it recognizes that urban route as eligible for that state funding. But it was an urban route of the Mountains to Sea Trail, but didn't make it into the funding as far as I am aware from the recent pot of funding passed a couple of years ago. So it does connects Hanging Rock to Pilot Mountain.
Check in if you will, because we can certainly communicate that to our lobbyist if we want to try to get it added.
Yeah, that may be an option for the existing trail funding. Yeah. So, okay, yeah, great question.
Yeah, it'd be great if on your website you actually showed the Mountain to Sea Trail, kind of its path, because I think it crosses through part of that.
Yeah.
Right in there, I think.
So, yeah, On our website, we show the existing trails. There's too many proposed trails. It gets really confusing for the public. On this site, there's existing plans, like I said, that call for that urban route. So there's stuff there. I think the challenge is right-of-way, utilities, updated construction cost estimates. That's sort of what we're running into as we talk to the town of Kernersville and Winston-Salem MPO. So there may be a space there to further the implementation by just studying it a little further.
Other question? Yes.
Mr. Chairman, just a couple of comments. This is an issue that I've worked with before, and I was excited to hear the idea come up of making this as a part of a legislative ask, because Forsyth County is uniquely positioned to take a leadership role on this, because it crosses so many jurisdictional lines. Got two of the municipalities in Forsyth County that are already working on segments, but the ability of the county to tie all this together and again, take that leadership role would be an extraordinary boost for the effort. I know I've worked with Kernersville Mayor Don Morgan on similar issues, and I gave her a call yesterday and said, hey, this idea's come up. What do you think? And she was excited about it too. So it would be an opportunity for a broad-based value, recreational facility, everything from serving the downtowns of two municipalities in Forsyth County and driving economic tourism dollars there to schools. East Forsyth High School would be right on the route here. For example, their cross-country team could run directly to Salem Lake and work out as a real value added for them. So a lot of benefit for this. Thank you for preparing the background briefing.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate you doing that. I think he literally, we met yesterday and he agreed to come over here. So, and I want to thank Commissioner Bessie too, if I have to be completely honest, when, as he was getting, acclimated and oriented to the board, I remembered this old study and knew that he would be interested to know about it. And it's a matter of sort of picking it back up and saying, let's put some sunshine on it, because it is a unique time to do this. So the last presentation we have is going to be from Kyle Haney. I believe is going to come up. He's going to talk about workforce projects. These are not really of a capital nature, but he and Andrea in his department, Andrea's our workforce person, and she's done a ton of work. And so I also will acknowledge that Kyle sped up his work. He was going to give me this a couple of weeks from now, and I said, well, the General Assembly just went into session. Can we speed it up? So you'll see this, some really interesting information.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and appreciate the opportunity to come before you and present these. My slide deck is going to be one shorter now because I had an economic development slide, which is the placeholder for that infrastructure. The manager already touched on that, so we'll get through there. Before I get into this, I did want to provide a little bit of background and context. These proposals are really a result of the efforts that this board has challenged us as a team and our workforce development and economic development partners to do in collaborating and creating a more cohesive workforce development system. So we've been regularly engaging with the school system, staff and leadership, Forsyth Tech, staff and leadership, Greater Winston-Salem Inc., Goodwill, and other community partners to talk about how we can collaborate better and provide more access to both our industry and our residents to workforce development systems. So out of those conversations came some priorities, and these proposals are really geared at looking and making some progress in those. So overall, it's a $5 million proposal. There are the 4 different areas of career progression: career awareness, career exploration, career preparation, and career development. All of these areas have some proposals in them, and I will admit that some of these are, in various stages of development. We're having ongoing meetings and ongoing conversations, but all really do address that access and equity issue to career awareness and career preparedness. So the first one, the first proposal here of about $5,900,000, this would go towards STEM education mobile technology labs. This is something we became aware of through the American Rescue Plan Act. There was a company who presented this. What this can do is create mobile STEM education labs that can move between areas. So you could put them at a school and program around that and partner with industry to show the technology that is being used in our manufacturing industries, as well as educate them on what skill sets are needed to prepare them for these jobs. Really about educating individuals on what they can do to prepare themselves for these jobs. And then this would fund for the development of 2 of these that could be moved around throughout the school system, but also throughout the county, really taking this education and awareness component to the community in partnership with industry. The next portion of this proposal is, World of Work is the kind of title of it, but really it is a career expo that is more of an experiential career expo that partners with our industry and our community to give hands-on view of what job opportunities and careers are in our community, partnering with both the trainers as well as industry so that students actually see what these jobs look like. I often get the opportunity to go through some of our manufacturers. I'm just thoroughly impressed by what we're doing in this community, what our businesses are doing in this community. But I don't think the students often get a view of what manufacturing and what these industries are doing today, some of the really high technology work. And so this would be an effort to educate them, make them more aware, and let them see firsthand what is going on in our community and what jobs are available for them. And then also partner with our education providers to see what skills and what opportunities are in our community to gain skills to get those jobs. And so $50,000 towards that. And then another piece of this that came out of our discussions as far as how do we bring awareness to the community instead of having the community come to awareness is the use of virtual reality technology. And so what the proposal would be is to build some virtual reality immersive experiences of our employers in our community. And one of the exciting opportunities that we are exploring is working with the School of the Arts in our community, who has a state-of-the-art virtual reality lab. We're just in preliminary discussions with them about creating those modules, but they would work hand in hand with our employers so that instead of a student having to go to a factory, they could put on one of these headsets, which the school already owns, and experience what it's like to be in that environment as a way of making them aware of what opportunities are available in this community. And that could be students, but that also could just be members of the community as well. It's a mobile technology that you could take. You could put it in the libraries. You could put it wherever you wanted to give that experience. Then the workforce readiness. This is really just enhancing and growing a program that is already in place. Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., they have a workforce readiness curriculum and credential for high schoolers that works on educating those high schoolers on what it's like to be in the workplace, giving them the skills necessary to be prepared for that. As a part of the internship program that they operate now, the Aspire internship program, part of the feedback that they're getting from companies is we really need to be focusing before students are in the workplace on what it's going to be like to be in the workplace, as well as working with the employers to make sure those are really good experiences. So this would take those existing programs and scale them to provide more opportunities for our students. And then the last slide here is the Learn and Earn Apprenticeship Program, which Forsyth Tech operates. So this is the apprenticeship program that's been going on for about 4 years now. It has grown from 13 to 50 apprentices per year. In that time, has 37 employee partners. So essentially what this program is up to a 2-year program where a student would take courses half the time, but also work half the time. So they're partnering with that employer. They get paid for all of it, and all of their school is paid for. So they are really able to access this education while earning money it's very good for adults who, can't not have a job to go to school, but can work at the same time. It's been very popular. It's been a really great economic development tool for us as well. A lot of the companies who come here or potentially looking at expanding are very excited to hear about this. What this proposal would do would allow that program to remain debt-free and expand over the next 2.5 years to include more employers and more sectors while making sure those students come out of that debt-free. So those are the proposals that are part of that $5 million. And like I said, we are continuously having conversations about how we expand and access to the employment system and create those partnerships. So certainly would love any feedback and any recommendations.
Kyle, this is extremely exciting for education. Thank you so much, and it's desperately needed. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Cal, for the presentation. 2 points. One is a question around, are you familiar with NC Works?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any type of collaboration with that organization?
Yes, ma'am. They are located in Goodwill, and they're partners with them. We have conversations with them quite often and how we can partner with them to provide opportunities to the community. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then the second information that I would add is really based on a conversation with the gentleman in the back, Mr. Darrell Walker, and just the school districts, I think, resolved to try to figure out how to utilize the opportunity with our students and helping their families to gain employment and trying to fill vacancies that are in high need through our operations, and just connecting access to helping families through our schools. So I hope that, as always, we can definitely cooperate with the school district in real time, not just the academic side, but really figuring out how to meet the families in our community where they are to help them progress.
Yes, ma'am.
I assume just a quick question. I assume you're looking at this as a legislative proposal?
Yes, sir.
Okay, got it, okay.
Right. And I was going to say, for the new commissioners, several years ago, the board made a commitment. We sort of looked at it and said, we fund a lot of the workforce development. We fund the schools, we fund the community college, we fund the COG, we fund cooperative extension. And I think our recognition was that those, and you probably can appreciate that, they don't naturally work together all the time. I mean, and so our position, and Andrea Sheets in the back sheet, is really a very intentional effort to ask them to work together. And so we're sort of a connector between all that. And I think it's paid dividends, and it's this kind of stuff that wouldn't have come out necessarily by itself that we've been able to do. So thanks, Kyle, and thanks, Andrea. All right. So no more presentation. I'm just going to make a few more comments, and then we can kind of wrap this up. The other items on the list, the support for courtroom technology, that was on the list last year. We had meetings. We made some progress. I think we had one courtroom in the new facility that was going to have the new system in place. So I think we've got it up to 3. And the goals now are to try to get all of our courtrooms with the full technology. Damon, do you want to talk about any of that? I mean, AOC, we provide the facility, AOC provides the stuff, and it's just a matter of trying to get as much of it as we can.
So the state has a virtual courtroom program that they're doing, and so they are committing to outfitting at least one. We convinced them to do 2 spaces in the new courthouse. We're also talking to them about technology in the other courtrooms, which would be their same Crave system, and just putting it throughout. But they're supposed to come and do an environmental assessment of our different courtrooms to see what they're able to add with respect to technology in the courtrooms, and them covering their Crave system and us not having to pay for that technology piece.
So that's the initiative there. Unless there are questions, y'all stop me. The next bullet was really reduction of volunteer and employment barriers. A couple of those sort of kind of come up every year. Last year we dealt with the last one, the work requirements for registered environmental health specialists. They actually did shorten it some. There's been a little bit of movement on that, but it remains that if you are in order to be, if you are a restaurant inspector, you've got a long period where you have to work. And, you know, obviously the problem is that we don't start getting utilization after they've been here a while, you know, it's like 2 years. And so maybe I look to Chantel. Did we get it reduced from 2 to 1, or is it?
I would have to go back and check the latest regulations.
Yeah, it's so, you know, and then the idea is that once they're certified and can go anywhere, you sometimes lose them, and so it's really difficult, and that's just been a perennial kind of problem. The other areas that sort of emerged is there's some new rules around volunteer firefighter certification, and these are the ones where you can get certified by the fire chief. It's not, you know, a curriculum piece, but they've done some stuff around block testing that has made things difficult. There's a buzz statewide that says that's a problem, so it is sort of on our I don't know if it's a legislative fix necessarily. They're actually little commissions that can make those rules, and so it's going to be a matter of just letting folks know those are problematic. And then a shift to a competency-based requirement for EMT training rather than hours. That was actually, I was made aware of that by our new emergency services director who came from Virginia. You know, we've got 250 hours that we require. Virginia had 150, but it's really competency-based, and at the end of the day, you know, if you can get the same level of competency with, you know, why have just a sheer number of hours that are out there? And so a couple of those items that are out there, and then the last one really is we're getting ready to deal with the federal legislative side of things, just sort of the observation that we've had around the ARPA spending deadlines. You know, we are, a lot of the rules say that those dollars are to be spent by the end of December of 2024. There's a few exceptions where if the funds are encumbered, like in a construction project or whatever, it could be 2026. But the reality is the Federal Reserve's actually raising interest rates, trying to control inflation, and so they're actually trying to slow the economy down. And at the same time, the federal government's saying, let's get this money spent as quickly as we can. It just seems logical that we could ask the federal, you know, our federal leaders, let's go ahead and extend it, you know, at least the base one to 2026, and give us more time to spend the kind of time. And some of these projects, as you know, are going to take some energy. Something like the pre-K project is going to take some time to understand the impact. Same thing with Cure Violence and the JIT team and some other ones. So that kind of is a federal legislative initiative. But that is it. There's been a lot of work done by some great staff on a good, you know, good set of talking points as we enter the legislative arena.
Let me ask you, I certainly don't want to prolong this meeting since we have not had a break. But do we plan to invite our state representatives here as we have done in the past?
We are and have, but I don't have a date.
Okay, it's okay, as long as we have it on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just let us know.
Yeah,
I think it
do we
was-
remember when the state day is? Is that in May this year?
Normally it is in May.
Yeah.
That's way too late.
Yeah, we
Okay.
need to do it pretty soon.
Yeah, in fact, one of the and part of my conversation with Representative Lambert, because he's working on this schedule, I mean, they're going to try to have, they tried to do it, and they are getting earlier. I mean, they set maybe unrealistic guidelines, but they're on track to try to get everything finished by June 30th.
Wow.
I mean, on track. He said he said they started on day one yesterday. He said it started yesterday on it. Okay. So I think that the sooner the better on that.
So it'd probably be a Monday or a Friday that we would have to have them here, but we will start working on that. So.
Thank you.
Gordon's not here. Gordon's probably had more conversations with Ashley Perkinson about that than, I know he's had more conversations than I have, so we can certainly do that. Okay, anything else on the legislative agenda?
So I wanted to speak to, if you don't mind, Chairman, I wanted to speak to the One Project, One Nation and the concerns that I have about the extension of the ARPA spending deadlines as well. One of the things that we noticed from today, the Arts Council received $4 million from us, and they aren't even, I don't think that they've gotten through most of that, and I'm cautious to think that that's probably going to happen to most of the recipients that received the ARPA funding from us, that they're going to need some additional time. So I appreciate you bringing that forward to the federal legislative representatives about those initiatives. And I'll also make some phone calls to Kathy Manning's office as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just very briefly, I realize that this is the last scheduled meeting before our special commission meeting next Tuesday, January 31st at 6 in the evening at Sylvia Sprinkle Hamlin Central Library Auditorium off 5th Street, downtown Winston-Salem. We're calling it a town hall, and it'll begin with a background information presentation from our county manager for the interested public on what's involved with county government, how it works, what the roles of commissioners are and aren't, and move from there into an open question and answer session. Note, it's not a public hearing, so it's not an opportunity for folks to come with 3-minute set piece presentations, but a genuine Q&A opportunity where folks can ask questions of county manager and commissioners who have the time to be present. Thank you.
I'd like to say to that, Dan, thank you for bringing it back up. We've done somewhat of this in the past with Dudley and the staff, so we appreciate you all considering to come in an afternoon hour and to be able to present alongside us and alongside the new commissioners as well. So thank you.
Anything else on that?
So the only other item is winter work session. I've not, we sort of outlined and are in the planning processes of getting good information that hopefully will provoke great discussion around sort of our emergency services system and challenges that we face as I think it's an important time to kind of take stock of where we are and some challenges that we had in the budget. The economic development discussion, we are working on how to take planning, utilities, and economic development current sites and really dive into that enough to think about the future, particularly with things like the Beltway project and other things that are happening. And then there'll be, the other item will be a more brief kind of budget overview, drivers that we know we're faced with right now and what things look like as we head into that. And so I think the date on that's February 23rd. And it has a fewer items on the agenda than normal, but I think it gives us an opportunity to dive into some really deep items with that. And so if you've got concerns or questions or things you really want us to make sure we address or we cover, let me know. So other than that, I just have closed session motion, Mr. Chair. Closed session?
The language, have a motion.
Okay. So let me put my glasses on so I can read it. Need to ask the board to consider a motion to go into closed session to discuss a matter relating to the location or expansion of industries or other businesses in the area served by the public body, including agreement on a tentative list of economic development incentives that may be offered by the public body in negotiations pursuant to the provisions of General Statute 143, 1311, and A4. Since there's no other business come before the board of this meeting, on the closed session, the meeting will be adjourned.
So moved. Commissioner Bessie makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhunt. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
I think we'll be in the big conference room.